Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the new series of the IBMS podcast. I'm Rob Dabrowski, the editor of the IBMS Biomedical Scientists magazine, and in this instalment, I'm joined by the IBMS past president, Debra Padgett, the current president, Joanna Andrew, and the president-elect, Sarah Pitt. We cover a range of topics, from their approaches to the presidency, to the future of the profession, artificial intelligence, Congress, and the great achievement of having 3 female presidents in a row, which is very timely with International Women's Day taking place on the 8th of March. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello. Today I'm joined by 3 incredible scientists. I'm just going to let them introduce themselves one by one. So if you would like to go chronologically with regard to the presidency, then I guess we're looking at Debra first, then Joanna and Sarah. So Debra, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are, your time as president, and kind of what your role is now, maybe your career path as well, for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, certainly, Rob. It's lovely to be here and join you this afternoon as well. So I'm Debra Padgett. I was president from 2022 to 2024, and what a fabulous opportunity that was. I was the 3rd female president of the Institute of Biomedical Science, and immediately followed Alan Wilson in the post-COVID years of how we managed biomedical science in the aftermath of the pandemic. I am by day clinical pathology lead in Northumbria Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, and I am also North East and North Cumbria Pathology Network operational lead. But my time during my presidency is absolutely the pinnacle of my career. It was humbling, it was a fantastic privilege, and I thoroughly enjoyed every moment working with fabulous members of IBMS Council in advocating for our profession, in raising our profile, and really hoping that I helped pave the way for what biomedical science of today kind of looks like as well. And being able to work with fabulous colleagues like Joanna and Sarah and see them develop into roles and now president and future president of our institute as well. Fabulous opportunities as part of that, and I'm sure we'll go into some of that over the course of the next half hour or so.
We will indeed. Let's go on to our next in line, Joanna. If you want to talk a bit about yourself, Joanna, and how you got into the role you're in and presidency, etc.
Absolutely. So I'm the 4th female president of the Institute, and I began my presidency in 2024, and so I'm well now into my 2nd year and cannot believe how quickly the time is flying. As Debra said, it's an incredible opportunity to be able to represent our profession at this level. I never imagined when I started out as a trainee biomedical scientist in the laboratory back in a long time ago, I won't say the year, that I would ever reach this. The pinnacle of this is absolutely the pinnacle of my career, as Debra said. I think I've always been connected to the IBMS from an early stage of my career in terms of doing portfolio assessments, specialist portfolio assessments, been a member since I began my career, and it's just such a privilege to be in this position and to be able to represent our members and work for the good of the Institute. And I do all that, which I absolutely love, and it's a really fulfilling role, but that is just a side role to my day job. So I work as a biomedical scientist. I'm the network lead for a network called the SHIPS, which is Scarborough Hull York Pathology Service, and thoroughly enjoying doing that role as well, alongside my presidency.
Fantastic. Let's move on to finally Sarah.
Hello. Well, I am the 3rd consecutive female president, which is a very, very nice thing to be able to say. And although I joined the IBMS Council only after the pandemic in 2021, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But I've been involved in the IBMS as a member all my career, and I have been on the virology scientific advisory panel for a really long time now, actually. And I've been the chief examiner in virology for, I think it's 10 years now. So I've been really involved in the IBMS, really involved in promoting membership of the profession and being what I really want everyone to be. I can't get everyone to be as enthusiastic about microbiology as I am. I've accepted that now, reluctantly, but I want all our members to be really proud of being members of the IBMS. It really stands for something. Our profession, it's an amazing professional body that everyone seems to forget, not least members of other professional bodies, that we've been going since 1912, which is longer than a lot of other professional bodies in healthcare. And we should be really proud of that. And the reason I've sort of put myself up to be on the council and now to be president, both of which, of course, are elected positions, is because during the pandemic, I ended up doing a lot of media interviews about virology, about this new virus, and what the virus is like, and about how diagnostic tests work, while all my colleagues were actually doing the proper work of running the labs and doing the diagnostic testing. I wasn't able to do that, but what I was able to do, and I felt that was my contribution to the effort, to the national effort to try and combat the pandemic, was to try and explain virology to the general public. And that gave me confidence to then put myself forward for council and then for presidency. So I'm hoping to kind of carry on with that. Having developed skills, which I didn't know I had, in communicating with the general public, I'm hoping to kind of build on that when I do become president, which will be starting next year.
Brilliant. That's such a steep kind of progression, Sarah, over a few years. Are you surprised by how it's gone? A few years ago, I don't imagine you would have thought you'd be taking on this role.
Very surprised. But I suspect I expect Joanna and Debra would also say the same.
Of course.
An opportunity opens up for you, and you sort of have to take it. And that's part of my whole experience of my whole career, but also particularly my experience with the IBMS, is that opportunities do arise. You do have to take them. You have to have the courage sometimes to trust, to kind of test yourself and see whether this is going to work for you or not, because it might not have done. I might not have been very good on council, but sometimes with my experience in the IBMS is people often either specifically ask you to do a particular thing or suggest that you might be suitable for a particular role, and you think, well, of course I can't possibly do that. But then if you think about it, you think, well, okay, this person has seen something in you that you haven't seen in yourself yet. If you trust and respect that person that's offered you the opportunity, why not take it and see what happens? And
Definitely.
you never know, you might end up being the president of the IBM.
I remember having a conversation with Sarah, Rob, when she was considering joining council, and she was absolutely terrified of the prospect. But we knew that she had so much to give to the Institute around her knowledge of microbiology and virology, and so much to bring to the council table. And here we are today. So take the opportunities is definitely lesson number one for anyone listening.
Just before I come back to Debra and Joanna, Sarah, is it obviously one of the things that came out in the pandemic was you're a brilliant and concise communicator, whether that's print media or on the radio, podcasts. Is that one of the strengths that you're thinking that you're hoping to bring to the role, and one of the reasons you're there as a kind of communicator? And I guess a large part of being the president is about communicating things.
Well, yes, I hope so. And I don't know whether you remember, Rob, I did a podcast for you about my snail research project back in December of 2019.
Indeed,
and
yeah.
You had to twist my arm so hard it almost fell off to do a pre-record with pre-prepared questions and a recorded thing that you were reassuring me that it could be edited and it would be completely fine, and you came to my office at the university just to make it really possible for me to do that podcast, and I really didn't want to do it. And then
I remember.
You remember? And then
Yeah.
a month later, I was doing live radio interviews on. My first one was BBC Radio Scotland on the Saturday morning, the 24th of January 2020. That's kind of embedded into my brain somewhere. So who knew that I was good at it? It wasn't. I didn't. And I don't think I spoke to I was asking my husband about this only a couple of weeks ago, and I said, well, who knew? And he didn't either. It was in there somewhere, but none of us knew. So I'm hoping that I would bring that to be able to explain outside of our profession and outside of healthcare, even within healthcare, but outside of healthcare, to the general public, to keep raise our awareness. And if school children are thinking about going into a career in healthcare, that would be one of the options they would consider, and that patients will understand our role in their patient journey, if you like, and a role in health in their care, and that's kind of stuff. But also but also the other thing I've got, which I think hasn't happened before, is that I started off in practice, but I'm now full-time a university lecturer. So I've actually got both the practice perspective and the academic perspective. And what I'm hoping to do is represent each to each other. So so that people in practice can understand the constraints and the parameters of the academic side of things, but also to get universities to take the IBMS seriously and respect our profession and respect our professional body in a way that I'm not sure they do as much as they should do yet.
Brilliant. That sounds really positive. Thanks, Sarah. And Deb, all three of you are ridiculously busy people if we push the presidency to one side. Debra and Joanna, what made you kind of motivated and want to take on such a big role when you've already got so much other stuff going on in your lives and your careers?
Shall I say? Debra said it would be a good idea.
Let's blame Debra.
I kind of feel responsible for both of you, to be fair, in a really good way, though.
I think often people say, if you want things doing, give it to a busy person, don't they? I know that's one of those phrases. And I think I was really enjoying being on council, and that was quite a responsibility in itself. There was, making sure that you set aside the time to give to council and made sure you considered the papers and all the work that needs to be done to do council. So I was already enjoying doing that, and I really, from being on council, really felt the passion for the institute. And I think having strong leadership ahead of me in Alan and Debra, who were the most recent presidents that I worked with on council, made you think, gosh, that's maybe I could do that. But at the same time, they're so strong, you're thinking, gosh, I don't think I can actually. So yeah, having support and encouragement from fellow colleagues and particularly in my case from Debra really helped make me think I could do it. But I also, I could genuinely see how much Debra really enjoyed doing the role. And I knew that I would enjoy that as well. I thought I'd really like to do that. The opportunities that you get, it's not, it's just a once in a lifetime opportunity that you just feel that even if there's a possibility, you've just got to put yourself forward if you've got a chance. So I've got no regrets. Really enjoying it and have had some incredible opportunities already. So looking forward to this next year, because it will be Congress in September, which is sort of the key pinnacle of any presidency. And that'll be this year, which is just unbelievable.
Invest in some comfortable shoes, Joanna. From my point of view, Rob, I've been part of the Institute, like the ladies, for forever. Since I joined the profession, since I got my first job as an MLA in the lab, I joined the Institute, and that feels like forever ago. It was forever ago. But I've also always had a really active role in branch and region, so that I've kind of not only come up being a biomedical scientist, but I've also come up understanding the value of the Institute in how it shapes and develops not only my career, but those of my colleagues, my friends around me as well. So I held various roles within Cumbria Branch and Northwest Region. And it was Jill Rodney, our old chief exec, that persuaded me to stand as IBMS council member, and I was national council member, and then I became Northeast Regional council member. And I honestly had no intention of standing as president. I am kingmaker, not king. And it was a really big step for me to consider putting myself forward, and it took a lot of encouragement from a lot of very close friends around the council table to even think about me doing that role. I am eternally grateful that they did, because it has been fabulous, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And like Joanna, the opportunities for me personally, a girl from a little town in the northeast of England, finding herself in an all-party parliamentary health group in the House of Lords with eminent speakers is quite terrifying, but one that you just grasp with both hands and you go for, but not, it's great personally, but being able to represent our 20,000 plus members and talk about the importance of the role that we do every day is just not something you can ever miss. Standing, and Joanna's got this to come, so I can do this and be a little bit naughty, because standing on this stage at the ICC in Birmingham, delivering the Albert Norman address as we open Congress is terrifying, but the most exhilarating thing you'll ever do in your life, Joanna, Sarah. So make the most of it, because Congress is fabulous.
Yeah.
Can you see the people in the audience, Debra, or are the lights on you so strongly that it's just kind of you're speaking into a kind of nothingness?
Yes, I found a point in the distance and talked to a red light that I could vaguely see. You can see the first couple of rows. I'm not sure that's terribly helpful though, because the first couple of rows are all of your council colleagues that are waiting to hear what you have to say. And of course, I'm quite an emotional person, Rob, as well. It's rare that I get through a speech without a couple of tears or a bit of a wobble. So my Albert Norman address will go down in the halls of fame because I cried halfway through.
I remember. Well, it was a lovely speech, though. It was really nice. But while we're on Congress, obviously, Debra, you've done Congress. Joanna and Sarah, I think you're both on the plenary speeches this year. And Debra, if I remember correctly, I think you're doing a session and then chairing an afternoon. What is the role of the president at Congress? Are you kind of a figurehead for the IBMS? Is there lots of rushing around?
Yes, there is.
Things out?
Yes.
Mainly ceremonial. Talk me through it a little bit and demystify the role there.
So one of the key roles of being the president at Congress is to talk to as many people as you possibly can, to visit all the stands. There is actually a competition for the winning stand for the companies, so you get to visit all the stands, get to talk to everybody, meet people as you're going through. There are various formal lunches that are organised where you meet people who are speaking. So the people that are speaking at the plenary, the people who are speaking at the closing plenary, we have lunches. So there's people to meet. We invite presidents from other professional bodies to those events as well. It's important, as we said, to go and talk to members, bump into people as you're going through. People want to talk to you. You almost feel a little bit like a celebrity. Some people want to come and have a selfie with you, things like that. So it's important to be taking part in that. There are events that take place in the evenings as well. we have welcome evenings, and we have like a president's reception and things as well. So that's another opportunity to engage with the members and to welcome people to those events. So one of the things is you do actually miss the actual Congress. You don't get to go to any of the talks and learn something new in that respect. But there'll be opportunities for that when I will be attending future congresses back as a regular participant. So it's a real opportunity to meet people and to really. There's always such a buzz at Congress. People are usually very excited to be there. There's a good range of people from the profession, from people who are at all different stages of their career. So it's really nice to see that and to see so many people come together and realise what a huge profession we are and how incredible our members are, really.
As people who've also attended Congress in kind of a non-presidential capacity, what's your favourite bit from both perspectives? From obviously, this isn't Sarah. You haven't been there yet as in a presidential role, but you will be this year as the next president. What have you enjoyed most about visiting Congress, either as president or as a kind of a stand-up punter? What do the people get out of it who are coming along?
For me, it's probably the same regardless of being president or not being president, to be fair. It's being with like-minded people, sharing that experience, that enthusiasm for the role that we have, for learning and developing ourselves for the benefit of our patients and the people that we serve, that networking, that buzz. But also being able to interact with our company members and our trade stands as well, to see what the future of biomedical science is going to look like, understand what future technology is like. And I think more so over the last couple of congresses, the rate of change in biomedical science and technology and digital advances are so vast. And being able to have all of those really key players in one place at one time and being able to interface with them is absolutely fabulous. It's even better when you're president, because everyone's really keen to speak to you and engage and all of that kind of stuff. But for me, the networking, the community spirit, that feeling of being part of a family is just fabulous.
Brilliant. Sarah, what have you enjoyed most about going to Congress previously? And what are you looking forward to, if indeed you are looking forward to, this year?
Well, yes, I agree with Debra about the main reasons that Congress is so fabulous. But the other thing I have is I've been teaching at the university level the next generation of our profession for quite a long time now. And so at Congress, I often bump into people who I may not have seen since they've graduated. And now I find out what they're doing with their career. And that is always really fantastic, because you almost never get to find out what happened to the students. They've graduated, they've gone, they've moved on with their lives, potentially to another part of the country, even to another country altogether. You never get that sort of feedback. So to actually meet them in person, and they'll bump into you because they'll see you more, because they'll remember you, and they'll bump into you and say, "Oh yes, what are you doing?" And that's really, really amazing. And so I'm kind of looking forward to finding out what happens to what the president-elect's role is at Congress, because I've been used to being on the virology panel and chairing sessions and things like that. So it's going to be quite different, and I'm not quite sure what it's going to entail. But
we definitely need
finding out
a chat. Debra,
you're about to host, Sarah. You are hosting Congress.
Right, okay.
That is your role, bless you.
Well, Debra gave me this fabulous list of do's and don'ts and remembers and things, which I have kept. So I'll make sure you get the memo, Sarah, so we can work on it together.
Brilliant. So, and Joanna, it's a massive year for you this year, as you say. Are you nervous about giving the big speech? Is this something you're okay with?
I think I would be crazy to say that I'm not nervous. I am, of course. I will be absolutely terrified, because it's so important that it's right. It's not only, this is it's so important that you're saying the right things and delivering them in the right way. So I will be terrified. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But, I know I can do it. I know I've done talks before. I know it'll be okay, but I will be absolutely terrified. Yes. Can't deny that.
We'll be cheerleading you from the front row.
Where you can see, so you'll be able to see them as well, Joanna.
Yeah, I was going to say, Debra mentioned how the council sit on the front row. Well, actually, that can be quite daunting, but it also can be quite reassuring because they are friendly faces who are nodding and smiling at you and cheering you on as if to say, you're doing okay, keep going.
They're definitely not going to be flipping through their phones on Facebook, are they?
They better not be.
And all of you, it's been kind of quite a time of change for biomedical science. So we touched on how the pandemic, being president in the pandemic and then post-pandemic, and the kind of profile of biomedical science seems to have changed massively. Do you three see over these kind of last few years a change in the way biomedical science is perceived by the public and maybe by the profession itself as well?
I think our profile has definitely been raised, and certainly the work, a lot of the media work that Sarah's been able to do has really helped that. So I think we're definitely hugely more known than we were 5 years ago, but there's an awful lot more to do, And I know Sarah talked about that being one of her passions for her presidency. And we've done so much, but still the average person in the street doesn't have a clue.
No.
So I think that's still a big portion of the work that we need to do as an institute in raising our profile, building on everything that we've already done. But there's a long way to go, I would still say.
I think we've moved leaps and bounds with regard to how we engage with policymakers, how we engage with our MPs, how we have a voice within NHS England and the 4 nations, how we work with the chief scientific officers in the devolved nations. That is fundamentally different to how it was pre-pandemic. And that's absolutely fantastic. And that's given us the credibility, the bedrock on which we now move forward. But Joanna's right, the public aspect of it is critical to how we really ensure my dad knows what I do for a living, or, it's those people now. How we influence children in schools to think about a career in biomedical science, and how the general public understand the importance and the size and scale of what we do in supporting their healthcare on a day-to-day basis. It's that where we really need to focus over the next few years. And Sarah's really going to help drive that.
I heard a nice saying recently when there was the whole debate about tax and farmers, and someone said, never ever politically go for a bunch of people who appear in children's stories. So don't attack doctors, don't attack nurses, don't attack postmen, don't attack, how do we kind of push towards that stage where biomedical scientists are well known, not just by, a kind of niche majority who've maybe had treatments and who are aware of it, but by the general public who know what you guys do? Is there anything specific we can do or that we are doing?
Maybe we need a children's story, some budding author, but some heroine.
Maybe we need to focus on Harvey's Gang and how we drive that forward. Harvey's Gang is a fabulous vehicle by which we interface with our paediatric population, those children, their parents, and not only help them overcome their fears and concerns about being in a hospital and having blood tests done, but they're a fabulous interface for sharing what we do and how we do it. And if we could link those together and somehow get to a Harvey's Gang storybook, how amazing would that be?
We have had, I know the founder of Harvey's Gang was immensely proud when he was able to tell me that one of the first children that came round as a Harvey's Gang participant is now a biomedical scientist.
Yeah.
So it's those sorts of success stories that we want to promote. I think that's a very good idea. That's where we start at the beginning.
And are there any massive challenges that you all see on the horizon, as opposed, not just kind of looking at profile and how well known the profession is and the influence it gets through that, but through AI? Is there concern about AI? Is this stuff that's being discussed at a presidency level? Or is it something where there's no kind of immediate threat and it's seen to be a kind of a tool for people to use as opposed to something that will take their jobs? Sorry, that's about 17 questions.
Yeah, I was thinking, yes. I think there's so much.
What's your thoughts on AI?
I think there's absolutely all those things. It's a huge positive potential for streamlining some of the work that we do, for being able to produce results more quickly, to be able to target treatments better. But we've got to make sure it's correct. We've got the risks of people using AI in ways that are not helpful. So there's so much that we've still got to learn. But I think in any new technology, it's be there at the forefront, be involved, learn about it, find out about it. Don't be afraid about it. Don't hide it, hope it'll go away. Sort of embrace it and see where it'll take us, because I think there will be a lot. The positives will outweigh the negatives, but we've still got a lot to learn about it. Yeah.
Debra and Sarah, any strong thoughts on that one, or are you all pretty much on the same page?
I would say throughout my whole career, when I first started, computers were big things in warehouses. We just didn't. I remember getting the first PC in my first lab, and we thought, well, what are we going to do with this then? So, as biomedical scientists, particularly because we're scientists and we're quite nerdy, we've actually learned how to use the technology and adapt the technology. We've often been at the forefront within healthcare. Pathology service, the sort of internal management systems, the LIMS type systems, haven't necessarily been at the forefront of the NHS or computer service or anything like that. But biomedical scientists, I think, have, and they've embraced the tech, particularly people who have a particular interest in that area. All along, people have embraced that technology and learned what we can do with it, learn what we can't do with it, and learn how to adapt. And I just see AI as another tool that we can use, but I do think that we are very well placed to learn what we can do with it and what we can't do with it, and to use it effectively and appropriately, so that it can actually make our lives at work better, and therefore improve the quality of the service that we're providing for patients, which is the most important thing that we should always be focused on, or in everything that we do anyway.
I'm on an expert panel tomorrow about artificial intelligence in pathology, and Sarah and Joanna will be pulled into all of these sorts of conversations on a regular basis as well. AI is just the next evolution of pathology services. I would like to think we are exceptionally well positioned to be able to support, understand, develop how we use it and how we use it safely. We do everything under the heaviest regulation of any of the departments in the NHS. We are ISO 15189 accredited in the most part. And so all of the quality management, all the rigorous validation and verification, all of the quality control processes, all of that still exists. And all will still be delivered as we understand how we move our services into a more digital footprint and one as we transition to AI. So again, I'd like to think we have all of the right foundations. We need some safeguards up to make sure that the data that we are going to generate as part of this is safe and ethically mined and managed appropriately. But I have no doubt our workforce of the future will handle this with aplomb to the benefit of the patients.
Brilliant. While we're on workforce, it's obviously an incredible achievement, if that's the right word, that we've got 3 female presidents in a row. Is there equality in the workforce? I mean, it seems like quite a progressive workforce from other sectors that I've worked with, but is there equality? Can there ever be equality? It's something to strive towards, but is it even possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are probably a female-dominated profession. I think many of the healthcare professions are. But I think we've come a long way from when I started in the profession. Certainly, I think we had this conversation before, haven't we, Rob, on a different subject. But when I started, all the bosses were men, all the seniors, biomedical scientists were men, and the rest of us got on with the job. And that has definitely changed. Debra and I are both senior, very senior leaders within our organisations, and we're not the only women. There's plenty of us now. So I think there's a lot more equality than there was.
And if we broaden that out even further to all of our equality, diversity, inclusion work, and even within the institute, it's core to everything we do every day. If I think back to my inauguration, and I had a really special inauguration in 2022. It was the 100th anniversary of women being formally admitted as IBMS members. That was a really big event, considering we've been around for longer than 100 years. And now, I mean, it was wonderful when Joanna followed me into the presidency and seeing Sarah saw 35th, 36th and 37th presidents of the Institute and having ladies being able to represent our profession. But I am a big advocate that whilst it's great that we're ladies and we're representing the female leadership within biomedical science, we're doing it because we have the skills to be able to do that. We're the right people to be able to do that job. And it happens to be that we're also ladies as well. But we do need to champion that. And from my point of view, being a strong role model for other ladies in the profession, girls coming up through their education and training, to have a role model to be able to aspire to and to think that that's possible is something that I think is really, really important.
And one of the other things, because I was thinking about equality of opportunity, which I think is an important way is a useful way to think about it, is that in my career, not only were when I first started, not only were all the men or all the top jobs being taken by men, all the leadership roles and even the sort of lower middle management sort of roles were all male. I was also told by a consultant virologist, so a medical member of staff, that because I was thinking of possibly aspiring to do a PhD even when I first started my career, and I was told, "Oh, people like you don't need PhDs," and the idea that if you are not a medically qualified, somehow you were just not really worth listening to, or taking our expertise was not valued as much as it should have been by our other colleagues, not just medical colleagues in pathology, but across healthcare. And we now have routes. So yes, I'm working. One of the reasons why I'm working in the university and is because I sort of had to take time out to do my PhD, and then a lectureship job came available, and I sort of took it. But I'm really pleased that a 25-year-old version of me won't have to do that if they don't want to. Yeah. They will be able to go all the way up to be a consultant biomedical scientist while staying within the NHS and staying as a biomedical scientist. I mean, I have kept my HCPC registration, and so I can always, if the opportunity arises, I could always come back. But the 25-year-old me won't have to do that if they don't want to. And I'm really, really proud and really pleased that we've been able to offer that, all the equalities of opportunities and within the scope of all the things that IBMS members can do through all the qualifications that we offer them, which again, we offer a much bigger suite of qualifications than we did when I first started in my career. And so it's not just about sort of it's about more than just about whether you're male or female or your other sort of characteristics. It's whether the opportunity for you to develop your skills and talents within our profession is there. And I think we have much better opportunities now for that than we did 20, 30 years ago, which is fantastic.
Really agree. And do you think the individual roles are kind of broadening with what a scientist is able to do, and areas which might have previously been like, oi, that's my turf.
Yeah. We're
not having a biomedical scientist in there. Are those kind of barriers breaking down a little bit?
Oh, well, this is something, Rob, I'm particularly passionate about, being able to work alongside and in collaboration with our medical colleagues to help support their roles. We have huge recruitment challenges in our medical workforce, and being able now as biomedical scientists to work right at the top of our license and be able to support that. For Joanna, Sarah and I, when we started in our profession, if we wanted to reach the higher bandings within the NHS, you had to go into management. There were no roles within the clinical sphere. And now I have members of staff here that are working at the top of their career, being able to work alongside their medical colleagues, not only in histopathology, but in microbiology and biochemistry and all of the different aspects of the service delivery, and having the opportunity to now decide whether you want to be managerial or clinical, but really understand the role that the biomedical scientist at the top of that level can bring is critical to how we're going to overcome workforce challenges for the future, how we're going to help with recruitment and retention, but how we're just going to be able to better shape careers for these amazing people that we have within our services.
Amazing. One last question for the three of you, if I may. Debra and Joanna, I'd be interested to know what aspect of your legacy you're the most proud of and you think is the most important, and Sarah, what you would hope to achieve when you're president. So Debra, let's take it chronologically again. Our past president, Debra, which element of your legacy are you most proud of, Debra?
Probably the thing that I got just across the line just before I stood down as president. I spent a lot of time working with NHS England and the Chief Scientific Officer around having consultant biomedical scientist roles formally recognised in our job role structure within the NHS. So being able to have our workforce formally called consultant biomedical scientists is something that I am incredibly proud of.
Joanna?
Oh, I don't know, is the honest answer.
You're still going, so it might be something
I'm still going. There's so many exciting things that we're doing, and I think I need to think about that one, and potentially I think very much following on from what Debra said, it will be something, I think, once about the workforce, because that is our most important asset. And Debra's achievement of working with NHS England to get our consultant biomedical scientists recognised is fantastic, and I would hope to have a similar legacy that really reflected the value of our workforce. But I don't think I can quite quantify just yet.
We'll come back to you in a year. We'll chat again.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to say. Sarah, is there anything in particular that you're aiming for and that you're hoping to achieve, and that, in the future when you look back, you'll be able to, that was my thing I wanted to do and I did it?
Well, obviously I don't really know until I get started. Probably something will come along and become obvious to me, that something tangible. But talk from a point of view here, what I'd really like to do is if you went to talk to somebody at the bus stop outside of the hospital and you were waiting for the bus and you said, oh, yes, I work in that hospital, I'm a biomedical scientist, and the person sitting next to you in the bus stop would know what that was, would understand what a biomedical scientist was, then that would be something that I would be really aiming to do.
Seems like a really good aim.
Yeah.
Debra, Joanna, Sarah, thank you so much for the time today. I know you're all incredibly busy with packed diaries, so I really appreciate you giving up some time to have a chat for this podcast. So thank you very much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Thanks to our guests for taking part in this episode, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and remember that this episode can be used as reflective learning for your CPD. Please do keep an eye on IBMS social media feeds and the website for future episodes. Thanks again for listening.